A food cart owner fed a homeless girl for 5 nights straight, asking nothing in return. Then a vampire king arrived, searching for his lost sister. The girl she'd saved had bound her to an ancient blood debt. Now she has 8 days to find the princess again, or die with her. The smell of frying onions and grilled meat filled the narrow alley between 5th and Main, where Ria Martinez had set up her food cart every night for the past 3 years. At 24, she'd mastered the art of surviving on scraps, both literally and figuratively. Her cart, painted a fading red with handwritten signs advertising $3 tacos and best street burgers in Phoenix, was her entire world. It was 11:47 p.m. when Ria first saw her. A girl, maybe 16 or 17, stood at the edge of the streetlight's glow. She was impossibly thin, her oversized hoodie hanging off her shoulders like a funeral shroud. But it wasn't her size that made Ria's hands freeze over the grill. It was her stillness. The girl didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the sizzling food with an intensity that felt almost predatory. "Hey," Ria called out, wiping her hands on her apron. "You hungry?" The girl flinched, taking a half step back into the shadows. For a moment, Ria thought she'd run. But hunger, real desperate hunger, had a way of overriding fear. The girl's eyes, strangely pale, almost silver in the dim light, locked onto a wrapped burger sitting on the cart's edge. Ria grabbed it and walked forward slowly, like approaching a stray cat.
"Here."
"It's still warm."
"No, Chari."
The girl's hand shot out with startling speed, snatching the burger. She tore into it immediately, not bothering to unwrap it fully, devouring it with an animal ferocity that made Ria's stomach turn. When had this kid last eaten? "Slow down, you'll choke," Ria said gently. "There's more if you want it." But the girl was already backing away, burger clutched to her chest, disappearing into the darkness beyond the alley. The whole encounter lasted maybe 90 seconds. Ria stood there, confused and unsettled, watching the empty space where the girl had been. The strangest part? She could have sworn the kid's eyes had reflected the light, just for a second, like a cat's. The next night, Ria prepared extra food. She told herself it was just being practical. Leftovers would spoil anyway. But as midnight approached, she found herself glancing toward that same shadowy corner, spatula gripped tight in her hand. At 11:59 p.m. exactly, the girl emerged. Same hoodie, same skeletal frame, same haunted look. But this time, Ria was ready. She'd wrapped 2 burgers, added fries, and grabbed a bottle of water. She set them on the cart's edge and stepped back, giving the girl space. "It's yours," Ria said. "I made extra." The girl approached cautiously, her movements oddly graceful despite her apparent weakness. Up close, Ria could see how pale her skin was, not just light, but almost translucent, with faint blue veins visible at her temples. Her lips were cracked and colorless. This time, the girl ate slower, more deliberately. She never spoke, never made eye contact, but there was something in the way her shoulders relaxed that felt like gratitude. "What's your name?" Ria asked softly. No response. The girl just ate, methodically working through the food with desperate efficiency.
"I am Ria."
"I'm here every night except Sundays. If you need food, just come by, okay?" No questions asked. The girl's fingers trembled as she reached for the water bottle. For just a moment, their eyes met, and Ria felt a chill run down her spine. Those eyes weren't just pale. They were wrong somehow, too bright, too knowing, carrying depths of sadness no teenager should possess. Then the moment passed. The girl grabbed the food and vanished, moving so quickly she seemed to blur into the darkness. Ria stood there, heart pounding, telling herself she'd imagined it. By the 4th night, it had become routine. Midnight. The girl appeared. Ria fed her. The girl disappeared. Ria's regular customers noticed. Carlos, who ran the tattoo parlor next door, commented on it. "You running a charity now, Ria? That weird kid's been coming every night." "She's hungry," Ria said simply. "You got a problem with that?" Carlos raised his hands in surrender. "Hey, your food, your choice. Just saying, There's something off about her. My dog went crazy when she walked past yesterday. Rhea ignored him, but the comment stuck with her. Because Carlos was right, there was something off. The girl never aged in the sunlight because Rhea never saw her in sunlight. She never asked for help, never spoke, never did anything a normal homeless teenager would do. And the way she moved, those brief moments of impossible speed. On the fifth night, Rhea decided to follow her. It was stupid and dangerous, she knew that. But curiosity had always been her weakness. So when the girl finished eating and turned to leave, Rhea flipped the closed sign, locked her cart, and slipped into the shadows behind her. The girl moved through the alleys with purpose, navigating the maze of Phoenix's downtown with the ease of someone who'd mapped every escape route. Rhea struggled to keep up, her sneakers scuffing on pavement while the girl's footsteps made no sound at all. They were 3 blocks from the main street when Rhea heard the voices. There, a man's voice, harsh and urgent. Don't let her reach the river. Dark figures emerged from a side street, 3 men, moving with coordinated precision. The girl froze, her head whipping around as she searched for an exit. She was trapped. Rhea's instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to stay out of whatever this was. But then she saw the girl's face, pure terror, the kind that made her look even younger, more fragile. Hey! Rhea shouted, stepping into the open. Leave her alone. It was the stupidest thing she'd ever done. All 4 figures turned toward her, the 3 men and the girl. And in that moment, under the flickering streetlight, Rhea saw what she'd refused to see before. The girl's mouth was open in fear, revealing elongated canine teeth that gleamed like ivory blades. Her eyes had gone from silver to a deep, glowing crimson. And the men chasing her had similar features, pale skin, predatory grace, and faces that held centuries of cruelty. One of the men smiled, and it was the smile of a shark. A human, he said, voice dripping with amusement. How convenient. The girl, no, not a girl, something else entirely, looked at Rhea with an expression of pure horror. Then she did something unexpected. She ran toward Rhea, grabbed her arm with impossible strength, and pulled her into a sprint. Run! The word exploded from the creature's mouth, the first sound Rhea had ever heard her make. Her voice was beautiful and terrible, like music played on broken glass.
So Rhea ran.
Behind them, the men laughed, and the sound of it promised that running wouldn't be enough. They ran through alleys Rhea didn't know existed, the girl's grip on her wrist like an iron shackle. Every time Rhea stumbled, that inhuman strength yanked her forward, keeping her on her feet. Behind them, footsteps echoed, sometimes close, sometimes distant, always pursuing. What are you? Rhea gasped, her lungs burning.
Don't talk.
Run. The girl's voice was clearer now, urgency cutting through whatever had kept her silent before. They burst onto a residential street, rows of darkened houses on either side. For a moment, Rhea thought they'd lost their pursuers. Then a figure dropped from a rooftop directly in front of them, landing in a crouch that should have shattered bones, but produced only a soft thud. The man rose slowly, his face splitting into that same predatory grin. Princess, you've led us on quite a chase. But it ends now. Princess? Rhea's mind reeled. The girl shoved Rhea behind her, taking a protective stance. She's innocent. She doesn't know anything. Let her go. She's seen too much, another voice said. The second man emerged from the shadows to their left, cutting off that escape route. Human witnesses are problematic. I won't say anything, Rhea shouted, hating how her voice shook. I don't even know what I saw. The first man laughed. Exactly the problem, sweetheart. The girl's body tensed. If you touch her, my brother will. Your brother won't even find her ashes, the man interrupted. That's the whole point. Everything happened at once. The girl lunged at the first man with shocking speed. They collided in a blur of movement too fast for Rhea to track. The second man moved toward Rhea, but the girl somehow twisted mid-fight, kicking him square in the chest with enough force to send him crashing through a wooden fence. The forest! The girl screamed at Rhea.
East. Run.
Ria's body obeyed before her brain could process the command. She sprinted toward the end of the street where the city lights faded into darkness. Behind her, sounds of combat erupted. Impacts that sounded like cars colliding, snarls that couldn't be human. The forest edge appeared ahead, a wall of pine trees marking where Phoenix's urban sprawl finally surrendered to nature. Ria plunged into it, branches whipping at her face, roots trying to trip her. The darkness was absolute, swallowing her whole. She'd made it maybe 30 yards when something grabbed her from behind. Ria screamed, twisting to fight, but the hand clamped over her mouth was familiar. The girl's cold, trembling fingers. "Quiet," she whispered, pulling Ria down behind a fallen log. "They're listening." They crouched there, breath held, as footsteps approached. 2 sets, moving slowly, searching. "She can't have gone far," one of the men said, his voice casual, conversational. "Humans tire so easily." "Forget the human. Where's the princess?" "Does it matter? We complete the contract either way. Kill her witnesses, kill her, collect our payment from the Obsidian clan." The footsteps moved closer. Ria could see their silhouettes now, dark shapes passing between the trees. Her heart hammered so loud, she was certain they'd hear it. The girl beside her was shaking. Not from fear, Ria realized, but from exhaustion. Up close, she could see how the girl's skin had taken on a grayish tinge, how her lips were nearly white. Whatever energy she'd burned fighting those men had cost her dearly. "Leora," one of the hunters suddenly called out, his voice echoing through the trees. "We know you're weak. How long since you fed? 2 weeks? 3? You're barely standing, princess. Surrender now, and we'll make it quick. Keep running, and you'll go feral anyway. At least die, with your mind intact." The girl, Leora, closed her eyes, her jaw clenched tight. A single tear traced down her pale cheek. The hunters moved on, their voices fading. But they didn't leave. Ria could still hear them, circling, searching, patient as wolves. Minutes passed.
5. 10.
Ria's legs cramped from holding position, but she didn't dare move. Beside her, Leora's breathing had become shallow, irregular. "We need to get you help," Ria whispered, so quiet it was barely sound at all. Leora's eyes opened. They'd faded back to that silver color, dulled now with exhaustion. "No help. Not for me. You need to go back. Forget this night. Those guys will kill you. Better me than you." Leora's hand found Ria's, squeezed it weakly. "Thank you. For the food. For the kindness. Nobody's been kind to me in so long." Something in those words broke Ria's heart. This girl, this creature, whatever she was, sounded so utterly alone. "I'm not leaving you here," Ria said. "You don't have a choice." And then, with a burst of wind that came from nowhere, Leora was gone. Ria blinked and found herself alone behind the log, the space beside her empty as if Leora had never existed. From deeper in the forest, she heard shouting. The hunters had found their prey. Ria ran back toward the city, tears streaming down her face, Leora's cold hand still a phantom weight in her own. Behind her, the sounds of violence painted the night red. She didn't look back. By the time Ria reached her food cart, dawn was breaking. She locked herself inside the storage compartment and finally let herself collapse, shaking uncontrollably. What had she witnessed? What was that girl? And why did Ria feel like she'd just abandoned someone who desperately needed saving? Ria didn't sleep. She sat in her tiny studio apartment above the laundromat on 6th Street, staring at the wall, replaying the night in her head. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Leora's face, that mixture of terror and resignation, the way she'd squeezed Ria's hand before vanishing. By 7 a.m., Ria had convinced herself it was a hallucination. Heat exhaustion maybe, or food poisoning. She'd imagined the teeth, the impossible speed, all of it. By 8 a.m., she knew she was lying to herself. She went to the marketplace anyway. What else could she do? Bills didn't pay themselves, and her cart was the only income she had. She pushed through the morning routine on autopilot, prep work, inventory check, setting up the grill. The marketplace was busier than usual, she noticed. People clustered in groups, whispering, glancing nervously at the sky. Mrs. Chun from the dumpling stand kept touching the cross around her neck. Even Carlos looked spooked, smoking 3 cigarettes in the span of 20 minutes. "You here?" he asked when Rhea rolled her cart into position. "Hear what?" "Something happened last night. Police found blood all over Mason Street. Lots of it. But no bodies." He lowered his voice. "My cousin's a cop. Says it doesn't make sense. The blood patterns are all wrong, like someone painted the street with it." Rhea's hands froze on the propane tank connection. "Also," Carlos continued, oblivious to her reaction, "there's been this weird vibe all morning. Like a storm's coming, but the weather's perfect. You feel it?"
She did.
The air felt thick, charged with electricity that made her skin prickle. And there was something else, a heaviness, like invisible eyes watching from every shadow. By noon, the marketplace had cleared out almost entirely. Even the desperate lunch crowd stayed away. Rhea was about to pack up early when she heard it. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. The traffic noise from the main street gone. The perpetual hum of the city vanished. Even the wind had stopped, leaving the air dead and still. Then came the sound of wings. Rhea looked up and felt her blood turn to ice. The sky was darkening, not with clouds, but with figures. Dozens of them, descending in formation, wearing long black cloaks that billowed despite the windless air. They moved with synchronized precision, landing silently in the marketplace square. People screamed. Shop owners abandoned their stands, running for cover. But Rhea couldn't move. She stood frozen behind her cart, watching as the figures formed a perimeter around the square. They were humanoid, but wrong. Too pale, too perfect, moving with a fluid grace that defied natural physics. And their eyes. All of them had those same inhuman eyes, ranging from amber to crimson to cold silver. The crowd parted as a final figure descended. He was tall, easily 6'4", with shoulder-length black hair and a face that could have been carved from marble. His cloak was different from the others, deep crimson with silver threading that caught the light like liquid metal. But it was his eyes that commanded attention. They burned with an intense red glow, ancient and powerful, scanning the marketplace with the authority of someone who'd never been denied anything in his very long life. When he spoke, his voice carried across the square without him raising it, resonant and commanding. "I am Aldrich, king of the northern vampire clans." He paused, letting that sink in. "I seek the human who fed a homeless girl in this marketplace over the past 5 nights. Step forward."
Now.
Vampire. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Rhea's mind screamed at her to stay hidden, to run, to do anything but reveal herself. But her body betrayed her. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was guilt over abandoning Leora. Maybe it was just exhaustion making her stupid. She stepped out from behind her cart. "I did," she said, voice barely steady. "I fed her." Every eye in the square locked onto her. The vampires moved as one, creating a path between Rhea and their king. Aldrich's gaze fixed on her with such intensity, she felt physically pinned. He moved toward her, each step deliberate, predatory. The other vampires followed at a respectful distance, forming a tightening circle around Rhea's cart. When he stopped, he was close enough that Rhea could see the flecks of gold in his crimson eyes, could feel the unnatural cold radiating from his body. "Your name, human?"
Rhea.
"Rhea Martinez." "Rhea Martinez," he said it slowly, like tasting each syllable. "You fed a girl. Pale skin, silver eyes, dark hair. 4-5 consecutive nights, always at midnight." "Yes." Rhea nodded, not trusting her voice. Something flickered across Aldrich's face, an emotion too quick to identify. "That girl is my sister. Princess Leora of the Northern Clans. She disappeared 12 days ago after an assassination attempt." His voice dropped, becoming dangerous. "You are the last known human to see her alive."
Alive.
Ria's throat constricted. What do you mean alive? What happened to her? That, Aldrich said, leaning closer, is what you're going to help me discover. An elderly vampire stepped forward, his face gaunt and severe. Your Majesty, the human may be compromised. We should extract information through. She will help willingly, Aldrich interrupted, his eyes never leaving Ria's face. Won't you, Miss Martinez? It wasn't really a question. I don't know where she is, Ria said desperately. We were attacked last night. She saved me, then vanished into the forest. I tried to help, but... You tried to help, Aldrich's expression was unreadable. A human tried to help a vampire princess.
How?
Unexpected. He turned to his assembled followers. Secure the perimeter. Find every trace of my sister's presence in this city, then back to Ria. You're coming with us. Wait, I can't just. You can and you will, Aldrich said simply. Because whether you realize it or not, Ria Martinez, you've just become the most important human in the vampire world. They took her to an abandoned warehouse on the industrial edge of Phoenix, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry and bodies could disappear without questions. Ria's survival instincts were screaming, but running seemed pointless when surrounded by creatures that could move faster than her eyes could track. Inside, the warehouse had been transformed into a makeshift command center. Maps covered the walls, marked with red pins and symbols Ria didn't recognize. Laptops glowed in the dim light, manned by vampires who typed with inhuman speed. The whole operation had a military precision that was somehow more terrifying than the supernatural aspects. Aldrich gestured to a metal chair in the center of the space.
Seat.
Ria sat. She didn't have much choice. He pulled up a crate and sat across from her, close enough that she could see the exhaustion hidden behind his controlled expression. Up close, he looked almost human, until he moved, and that illusion shattered with his too fluid grace. Tell me everything, Aldrich said. Every detail, no matter how small. When did you first see Leora?
Ria's mouth was dry.
5 nights ago. She was watching my food cart from the shadows. She looked starving, so I gave her food. What time exactly? Just before midnight. Maybe 11:47, 11:50? I remember, because I was about to close up. A female vampire with short blonde hair appeared beside Aldrich, holding a tablet. That matches the timeline, Your Majesty. Security footage shows suspicious activity in that sector around 11:43 p.m. Aldrich nodded, his focus never leaving Ria. Did she speak to you? Not at first. Not until last night, when those men attacked us. Ria swallowed hard. She called you her brother. They called her princess and said something about the Obsidian clan. The temperature in the warehouse dropped 10 degrees. Every vampire in the room went still, that predatory stillness that meant danger. The Obsidian clan, Aldrich repeated, his voice like winter frost. You're certain that's what they said?
Yes.
They said they had a contract. Kill her witnesses, kill her, collect payment from the Obsidian clan. The elderly vampire from the marketplace stepped forward. Your Majesty, this confirms our worst fears. The Obsidians have violated the covenant. This is grounds for. I know what it's grounds for, Marcus. Aldrich's jaw clenched. But first, we find my sister. He turned back to Ria, and she saw something unexpected in those ancient eyes. Fear. Not for himself, but for Leora. I need you to understand something, Miss Martinez. My sister didn't run away because she was afraid of dying. She ran because she was afraid of what would happen if she stayed. I don't understand. Aldrich stood, pacing like a caged predator. 3 weeks ago, someone poisoned Leora with silver nitrate at a diplomatic gathering. It should have killed her instantly, but she survived barely. The poison damaged her system, made it nearly impossible for her to sustain herself. Sustain herself? Ria echoed. Marcus spoke up, his tone clinical. Vampires require blood to survive. Not copiously, not daily, but regularly. Princess Leora cannot consume blood in her current state. The silver poisoning causes violent rejection. She would rather starve than endure the agony. The pieces clicked together in Ria's mind. That's why she looked so weak. Why she ate my food so desperately. She was starving. Human food provides minimal sustenance to our kind, Aldrich said. It's like trying to live on air. But it's something. Enough to delay the inevitable. He stopped pacing, his hands clenched into fists. What you don't understand is what happens when vampires starve completely. We don't simply die. We transform. Into what? Monsters, Aldrich said flatly. We lose our minds, our humanity, everything that makes us who we are. We become feral. Pure instinct, pure hunger, attacking anything that moves. It's a fate worse than death, and it's irreversible. Ria felt sick. The men chasing us, they said something about that. They asked how long since she'd fed. They were waiting for her to turn, Marcus said grimly. Easier to kill a feral vampire than a princess with royal training. And it covers their tracks. Anyone finding her remains would assume she succumbed to the poison. But she hasn't turned yet, Ria said. She was weak last night, but she was still herself.
She saved me.
Protected me. Aldrich's expression softened fractionally. That sounds like Leora. Always protecting others, even at her own expense. He crouched in front of Ria's chair, meeting her eyes directly. You fed her for 5 nights. 5 nights of minimal sustenance, but enough to keep her conscious, keep her human. Do you understand what that means? That I helped her survive. More than that, Aldrich's voice took on a formal tone. In vampire culture, there are ancient laws older than human civilization. One such law is the blood debt. By saving a vampire's life, particularly royal blood, you create an unbreakable bond. Ria's stomach dropped. What kind of bond? Marcus stepped forward, pulling out an ancient leather-bound book. The law is clear. The human who saves royal vampire life becomes bound to that royal line. They are granted protection, status, and immortality if they choose. But they also inherit responsibility. What responsibility? Ria demanded. You must help find her, Aldrich said. You're the last person she trusted, the last one who showed her kindness. In our world, that creates a connection, a thread we can follow. I'm not psychic. I don't know where she is, but you know her, Aldrich insisted. You saw her patterns, her behavior. You're the only one she revealed herself to, spoke to. That matters, he paused, his next words heavy. And, according to the blood debt, you have a choice. Help us find Leora and save her life completely, or refuse and die with the secret you now carry. The warehouse fell silent.
Ria stared at him.
You're saying I help you, or you kill me? I'm saying the law demands it, Aldrich said quietly. I don't make the rules, Miss Martinez. I only enforce them. That's insane, Ria said, her voice rising. You can't just threaten to kill me for feeding a hungry kid. It's not a threat, Marcus said, opening the ancient book. The pages were yellowed parchment, covered in script that looked like a mixture of Latin and something older, more primal. It's law, established 3,000 years ago when vampires and humans first formed the covenant. Aldrich held up a hand, silencing Marcus. Let me explain properly. He pulled the crate closer and sat again, his posture less aggressive now. The blood debt isn't meant as a punishment, Miss Martinez. It was created as protection for both species. Doesn't feel very protective right now, Ria muttered. A ghost of a smile crossed Aldrich's face. Fair point. But consider the alternative. You've seen our world. You know what we are, where we gather our weaknesses. In the wrong hands, that information could start a war. I wouldn't tell anyone. Who would even believe me? People believed before, Aldrich said quietly. The vampire hunts of the 1600s weren't myths, Miss Martinez. Thousands of my kind were slaughtered because one human revealed our existence to the wrong people. We nearly went extinct, his eyes hardened. The blood debt ensures that never happens again. Those who know our secrets either join us, protect us, or...
Ria finished.
Yes. The blonde vampire approached with a laptop, showing Aldrich something on the screen. He studied it, frowning, then waved her away. However, Aldrich continued, the blood debt has another aspect you should know. By saving Leora, by feeding her when she was on the verge of feral transformation, you didn't just help her survive. You bound yourself to her fate. What does that mean? Marcus flipped through the ancient book, stopping at a page marked with a red ribbon. Article 7, Section 3. When human hand stays the descent of royal blood into madness, the thread of fate binds their souls. The human inherits the protection of the royal line, and the royal inherits the debt of life eternal. Should the royal perish, while the debt remains unfulfilled, the human follows within 3 moons. Rhea's blood went cold. You're saying if Leora dies, I die too? If she dies before the debt is fulfilled, yes, Aldrich said. He leaned forward, urgency creeping into his voice. That's why you must help us find her. Not just for her sake, but for yours. The clock is already ticking. How long do we have? She disappeared 12 days ago. Vampires can survive approximately 3 weeks without sustenance before going feral. After that, Aldrich's expression was grim. Hours, maybe. And if she becomes a monster, the law considers her dead. The debt activates. So I have 9 days? Maybe less. 8 days, Marcus corrected. And that's optimistic. Given her poison state, she may deteriorate faster. Rhea stood abruptly, needing to move, to think. This was impossible. Yesterday, she was a food cart owner worried about rent. Now she was entangled in vampire politics with a death sentence hanging over her head. This is barbaric, she said. It's survival, Aldrich replied. For both our species, he stood as well, his towering frame somehow less intimidating now that Rhea understood what was at stake, for all of them. I know this seems cruel, but the law exists for a reason. Humans who save vampires are rare, precious. They deserve protection, status, a place in our world. That's what the blood debt offers, if you survive long enough to claim it. And if I refuse to help? The warehouse fell silent again. The other vampires stopped their work, watching. Aldrich's voice was soft, almost sad. Then the law demands immediate execution. You die now instead of possibly dying later. At least if you help, you have a chance. Some choice, Rhea said bitterly. I know. Aldrich moved closer, his red eyes searching her face. For what it's worth, I don't want this. I don't want to threaten you, and I certainly don't want my sister's savior to die because of our ancient laws. But I am bound by the same rules. If I let you walk away knowing what you know, every vampire elder in the world would call for my head alongside yours. Rhea looked around the warehouse at the assembled vampires. They watched her with expressions ranging from sympathy to cold indifference. These were creatures who'd lived centuries, who'd seen empires rise and fall. To them, her life was a blip, insignificant except for how it connected to their princess. Tell me one thing, Rhea said, meeting Aldrich's gaze. Is Leora worth it? Is she worth me risking my life? Something shifted in Aldrich's expression. Grief, love, desperation. My sister is the kindest soul I've known in 800 years. She fights for peace between our species, believes humans and vampires can coexist without fear or violence. The Obsidian clan wants her dead because she threatens their power, their profits from the blood trade and human trafficking. His voice roughened. She's worth 1,000 of me. And if you knew her, really knew her, you'd understand why I'd burn the world to find her. Rhea saw the truth in his words, felt it in the way every vampire in the room straightened at the mention of Leora's ideals. She thought of the terrified girl who'd saved her life despite being hunted, who'd squeezed her hand in gratitude for simple kindness, who'd disappeared into darkness alone.
Fine, Rhea said.
I'll help. Not because of your law, but because she deserves to be saved. Aldrich's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Rhea said. I have no idea how to find her. Then we start with what you do know, Aldrich said, gesturing to the maps. And we pray we're fast enough. Marcus closed the ancient book with a decisive thud. The blood debt is acknowledged. The human Ria Martinez is now under royal protection until debt fulfillment or death. So witnessed. The other vampires repeated in unison. So witnessed. And just like that, Ria's normal life ended. The carriage was absurdly gothic, black lacquered wood with crimson velvet interior, pulled by horses that moved too smoothly to be entirely natural. Ria sat across from Aldrich, watching the Phoenix cityscape fade into desert highway through the tinted window. A carriage? She'd asked when they first brought it around. You guys know cars exist, right? Enchanted vehicles draw less attention than you'd think, Aldrich had replied. And they're more secure.
No GPS tracking, no digital footprint.
We move through the world invisibly. Now, 2 hours into the journey, Ria was trying to process everything Marcus had explained before they departed. The vampire world had structure, clans, territories, laws more complex than human governments. The northern clans that Aldrich ruled were considered progressive, favoring coexistence with humans. The Obsidian clan, based somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, represented the old guard, vampires who saw humans as cattle at best, enemies at worst. Where exactly are we going? Ria asked, breaking the heavy silence. The capital of Nightfall, Aldrich said. Our primary stronghold, about 6 hours north near the Oregon border. That's where Leora was poisoned, and where we'll find the resources to track her. You have a capital? Like an actual vampire city? Not a city. A complex built into the mountains, hidden from human eyes by enchantments. We've existed alongside your world for millennia, Miss Martinez. We've learned to be thorough about secrecy. Ria studied him in the dim light. He'd removed the ceremonial cloak, now wearing dark tactical gear that made him look more soldier than monster. Can I ask you something? You're going to regardless. Why were you so late? Leora disappeared 12 days ago, but you only showed up today. Aldrich's jaw tightened. We didn't know she'd fled to Phoenix initially. We thought she was taken, held somewhere within our territory. We searched everywhere, interrogated everyone who attended that gathering. It wasn't until 2 days ago that we intercepted Obsidian communications mentioning Arizona, his hands clenched. I should have known. Leora always talked about human cities, wanted to experience normal life. Of course she'd run to a place like Phoenix, crowded, anonymous, warm. She ran to survive, Ria said. Those men were hunting her. She was trying to stay alive until... Until what? Until she starved completely? Aldrich's voice cracked slightly.
She should have come to me.
I would have protected her, found a cure for the poisoning. Instead, she faced it alone. Maybe she didn't want to be protected, Ria said carefully. Maybe she wanted to protect you. Aldrich looked at her sharply. What makes you say that? Just a feeling. The way she acted that last night. She could have let those hunters catch me, use me as a distraction to escape. But she didn't. She saved me instead. Even though it cost her energy, she couldn't afford to waste. Ria met his eyes. People who do that, who put others first even when they're dying, they don't run away because they're scared. They run away because they don't want the people they love getting hurt trying to save them. Silence filled the carriage. When Aldrich spoke again, his voice was quieter. You sound like you speak from experience. Ria looked away. My mom got cancer when I was 16. Refused treatment because she wanted to save money for my college fund. By the time I found out how bad it was too late, she swallowed hard. Some people love by letting go. Doesn't mean it's right, just means they think they're sparing you pain. I'm sorry, Aldrich said, and sounded like he meant it. The carriage hit a bump, jostling them. Outside, the landscape had changed, fewer towns, more wilderness. Ria realized how isolated they were becoming. Aldrich, she said, using his name for the first time. What happens when vampires starve? You said they go feral, but what does that actually mean? He was quiet for a long moment. It means everything that makes them a person burns away. The humanity, the memories, the soul. All consumed by hunger. What remains is pure predator. Faster, stronger, and completely mindless. They attack anything with a heartbeat until they're destroyed. Has it happened to people you knew? Once, his expression darkened. a young vampire, barely 20 years turned. He was captured by hunters, starved for weeks as torture. By the time we found him, he'd turned. He killed 3 of our rescue team. Before we could, he stopped. Before I could end him. He was my nephew.
Gu, Aldrich,
Don't, he held up a hand. I'm telling you this so you understand what we're racing against. If Leora turns, I'll have to kill her myself. That's the law. And it will destroy me. Rhea felt tears prick her eyes. Then we won't let it happen. A small, sad smile touched Aldrich's lips. You have remarkable faith for someone who just learned monsters are real. I don't think you're monsters, Rhea said. Monsters don't spend 800 years looking for their sister. Monsters don't grieve. Before Aldrich could respond, the carriage lurched violently. Rhea heard the horses scream, an eerily human sound, and then something heavy slammed into the side of the vehicle. Down, Aldrich shouted, throwing himself over Rhea as the window exploded inward in a shower of glass. Rhea glimpsed figures outside, humans this time, dressed in tactical gear, carrying weapons that gleamed with silver. One of them fired, and a crossbow bolt punched through where Rhea's head had been seconds earlier. Vampire hunters, Aldrich snarled, fangs fully extended now. Hold on. The carriage tipped as something struck the wheels. They were rolling, the world spinning, and Rhea's scream mixed with the sound of splintering wood and gunfire. Then everything went dark. When Rhea opened her eyes, she was lying in dirt, her ears ringing. Smoke rose from the overturned carriage 20 feet away. And all around her, a battle was raging. Rhea's head throbbed as she pushed herself up on shaky arms. The world tilted dangerously, but adrenaline forced clarity through the fog. Around her, chaos erupted in bursts of violence too fast to fully comprehend. Aldrich moved like liquid death, disarming a hunter with one hand while dodging silver bullets with impossible precision. His fangs were fully extended, eyes blazing crimson, but even in his fury, he was controlled. Every strike calculated, every movement purposeful. 3 hunters circled him, their weapons gleaming with silver coating. One fired a net that crackled with electricity. Aldrich caught it midair and hurled it back, entangling 2 of them. The third lunged with a silver blade, but Aldrich sidestepped and struck the man's wrist, sending the weapon flying. Stay down, Aldrich shouted at Rhea, without looking at her. But staying down wasn't an option. A hunter broke from the main fight, sprinting toward her with a knife drawn. Rhea scrambled backward, her hand closing around a piece of broken wood from the carriage. When he reached for her, she swung with everything she had. The wood connected with his temple. He staggered, surprised more than hurt, and raised the knife. Then Aldrich was there, appearing between them so fast he seemed to teleport. He caught the hunter's wrist and twisted. The snap of bone was audible even over the chaos. She's under my protection, Aldrich said, his voice arctic. Touch her again, and I'll forget my principles about killing humans. The hunter clutched his broken wrist, stumbling back. You're harboring humans now?
You've gone soft, King Aldrich.
The council will hear. The council can wait in line, Aldrich interrupted. He didn't kill the man, Rhea noticed. Just disabled him, and moved on to the next threat. More vampires emerged from the tree line, Aldrich's guards who'd been traveling as outriders. The blonde vampire, whose name Rhea learned was Elena, fought with brutal efficiency, disarming hunters without killing them. Marcus, despite his age, moved with predatory grace, his centuries of experience evident in every calculated strike. But these hunters were professionals. They worked in coordinated teams, using silver weapons and UV flashbangs that made the vampires recoil. One hunter lobbed a grenade that exploded in brilliant white light. The vampires scattered, hissing in pain. Rhea used the distraction to crawl toward the overturned carriage, hoping to find shelter. She'd almost reached it when she heard crying. A girl, maybe 8 years old, crouched behind a tree, tears streaming down her dirt-smudged face. She wore pajamas covered in cartoon characters. Wrong place, wrong time, caught in the crossfire. Hey, Rhea called softly. Hey, it's okay. Come here. The girl shook her head frantically, too terrified to move. A hunter spotted her and raised his weapon. Rhea didn't think. She just ran, throwing herself between the hunter and the child. She felt the impact before she heard the shot, a sharp burn across her shoulder that sent her spinning. Then Aldrich was there again, and his control finally snapped. He moved faster than Rhea's eyes could track, disarming the hunter who'd shot her, slamming him into a tree with enough force to crack bark. You shot at a child, Aldrich snarled, his voice barely human. You violated your own hunter's code. She was in the way, the hunter gasped. She's 8 years old. Aldrich's hand tightened on the man's throat. For a moment, Rhea thought he'd kill him. But then he released him, letting the hunter collapse to the ground. Get your people and leave. This fight is over. Another hunter, older with graying hair, stepped forward. He held no weapon, his hands raised. Stand down, he ordered his team. Cease fire. Slowly, impossibly, the violence stopped. Hunters lowered their weapons. Vampires held their positions, ready, but not attacking. The older hunter approached Aldrich, keeping his movements non-threatening. We didn't know you were transporting civilians, Your Majesty. We received intelligence that you were smuggling blood slaves. Blood slaves. Aldrich's voice could have cut glass. Who told you that?
Anonymous tip.
Came through encrypted channels yesterday. The hunter's eyes flicked to Rhea, who was clutching her bleeding shoulder, while the little girl sobbed against her side. We thought we were conducting a rescue operation. You were lied to, Aldrich said flatly. The Obsidian clan is trying to slow us down, turn humans against us. Make it look like we're the enemy. He gestured to Rhea and the child. Do these look like slaves to you? The hunter studied them, his weathered face troubled.
No.
No, they don't, he turned to his team. Pack it up. We've been played. Commander, we can't just. That's an order. The commander's voice cracked like a whip. We don't attack civilians, and we don't trust anonymous intelligence. Should have known better. As the hunters began to withdraw, the commander approached Rhea. Miss, are you all right? That wound needs treatment. I'm fine, Rhea said, though blood seeped between her fingers. But she needs help, she nodded to the little girl. She's terrified. The commander knelt beside the child. Sarah? Sarah Brennan? Your parents have been looking everywhere for you. You wandered off from the campground, didn't you? The girl nodded, fresh tears falling. We'll get you home, sweetheart. He looked up at Aldrich. This child was reported missing 2 hours ago. She must have wandered into the crossfire. Aldrich's expression softened.
Take her.
And tell your hunter network the truth. The northern clans are not your enemy. The Obsidian clan is manipulating both our species, trying to restart the old wars. The commander nodded slowly. I'll make sure the council hears this. And Your Majesty?
I'm sorry.
For what it's worth. Save your apologies, Aldrich said. Just stop listening to lies. As the hunters departed with the rescued child, Elena approached with a medical kit. Your shoulder, Miss Martinez. Rhea finally looked down at the wound. The bullet had grazed her, tearing fabric and flesh but missing anything vital. Still, it hurt like hell. Aldrich was beside her instantly, his anger replaced by concern. You jumped in front of a child. A human child. Yeah, well. Rhea winced as Elena cleaned the wound. She was in danger. You could have died. So could she. Aldrich stared at her, something unreadable in his ancient eyes. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Can't it be both? Despite everything, he almost smiled. Perhaps. They reached the abandoned church ruins just after dawn. The structure sat at the edge of a forgotten highway, its walls crumbling, its stained glass windows long shattered. Morning light painted the ruins in shades of gold and amber, making it look almost peaceful. Rhea's shoulder throbbed beneath the bandage, but she refused to slow down. They'd lost hours because of the hunter attack, hours Leora didn't have. This location appeared in intercepted Obsidian communications, Marcus explained as they approached. We believe they held her here temporarily before she escaped. The interior smelled of decay and old stone. Pews lay broken and scattered, covered in years of dust, except for one area near the altar where the dust had been disturbed recently. Scuff marks, signs of struggle. Elena knelt beside dark stains on the floor. She touched one, brought her finger to her nose, and inhaled.
Blood.
Vampire blood, less than a week old. Aldrich moved through the space with predatory focus, his eyes scanning every corner. He stopped at the altar, where symbols had been drawn in what looked like dried blood.
Rhea, he called.
Come here. She picked her way through the debris. The symbols were crude but deliberate, circles within circles, words written in a language she didn't recognize. But between the strange letters, she saw something else. English words, scratched faintly into the stone as if written with a fingernail. East, Rhea read aloud. Water. Broken crown. What does that mean? Elena asked. Rhea stepped closer, her heart racing. I've seen this handwriting. On napkins at my food cart. Leora used to draw while she ate. I thought it was just nervous habit, but she was leaving messages. Aldrich's entire body tensed. What kind of messages? Little things. Pictures mostly. She drew a lot of water, waves, rivers, the ocean. And she drew this symbol. Rhea traced one of the circles, over and over again. I thought it was just doodling. Marcus pulled out his phone, photographing the symbols. These are old protection sigils, meant to conceal presence from vampire tracking spells. But she broke them deliberately, left them incomplete. He looked up. She wanted to be found. By us, or by her captors? Elena asked. By anyone who'd help, Aldrich said quietly. He turned to Rhea. You said she drew water? Extensively. Yeah, especially the last 2 nights. It was almost obsessive. Waves, boats, harbors. Rhea closed her eyes, trying to remember. And one night she drew something that looked like a crown, but broken in half. Aldrich and Marcus exchanged glances. Brimshore, they said simultaneously. What's Brimshore? Rhea asked. Coastal city, 6 hours west, Marcus explained. Small population, major shipping port. It was once home to the Western Royal Line before they were overthrown 3 centuries ago. Their symbol was a split crown, representing the division between vampire clans and human kingdoms. Aldrich was already moving toward the exit. The Obsidian clan has operations there. Smuggling routes, blood trade networks. If they're holding Leora anywhere, it would be Brimshore. Wait, Rhea said, hurrying after him. Why would Leora leave clues about where they're taking her? Why help them? Aldrich paused at the doorway, sunlight streaming past him. He stayed carefully in shadow. Because my sister is brilliant and desperate. She knows she's running out of time. If she goes feral, she becomes a threat to everyone. By leading us to their base, she's hoping we'll find her before that happens. His voice dropped. Or that we'll end her before she hurts innocents. The weight of that statement hung in the air. She's not going to go feral, Rhea said firmly. We're going to find her in time. Your optimism is refreshing, Marcus said, though his tone suggested he didn't share it. But we must be realistic about the timeline. It's been nearly 13 days. She has perhaps 4 or 5 days left, possibly less. Elena emerged from a side chapel, holding something, a piece of torn fabric, dark purple silk embroidered with silver thread. This is from Leora's cloak, the one she was wearing the night of the poisoning. Aldrich took it carefully, his hands trembling slightly. She's leaving us a trail. Or they're leaving us a trap, Elena countered. The Obsidians want you, Your Majesty. They want to eliminate the entire Northern Royal Line. Leora might be bait. I don't care, Aldrich said flatly. Trap or not, we're going to Brimshore. They moved back outside, where the rest of Aldrich's forces had secured the perimeter. Rhea watched as vampires worked with military precision, preparing for the next leg of their journey. Miss Martinez, Marcus approached her, his ancient face grave. I must ask, during those 5 nights with Leora, did she say anything else? Anything that seemed strange or out of place? Rhea thought back. She hummed sometimes. A melody, I didn't recognize. Sad. Kind of haunting. Marcus's eyes widened. Hum it for me. Feeling self-conscious, Rhea hummed the few notes she remembered. Marcus's face went pale, paler than usual. That's the Requiem of the Lost Crown, he breathed. A funeral song for fallen royalty. Vampires only sing it when they believe they're going to die. The words hit Rhea like a physical blow. She knew. Even then, she knew she might not survive. Yet she kept fighting, Aldrich said, having overheard. Kept trying to protect you. Left clues for us to follow. That's Leora, stubborn until the very end, his jaw set with determination. We leave for Brimshore immediately. No more delays. As they prepared the vehicles, actual SUVs this time, the carriage having been destroyed, Rhea found herself standing beside the church ruins, staring at the symbols Leora had left. Hold on, she whispered to the absent girl. We're coming. The wind picked up, carrying the salt smell of distant ocean. Somewhere ahead, in a coastal city built on bones and secrets, a princess was waiting. They had 4 days to save her.
Or 4 days to say goodbye.
Brimshore greeted them with fog and the stench of rotting fish. The coastal city clung to the cliffs like a barnacle, its buildings weathered by salt and time. As their convoy rolled through empty streets at dusk, Rhea understood why the Obsidian clan had chosen this place. It was dying, forgotten, the perfect location for crimes no one would investigate. They set up base in an abandoned cannery on the waterfront. Through the broken windows, Rhea could see the harbor, where cargo ships sat like sleeping giants in the mist. The Obsidian operations are centered here, Marcus said, spreading maps across a rusted table. 3 warehouses, a processing facility, and a nightclub that serves as their public face. We've identified at least 40 vampires loyal to their clan, plus human mercenaries. Where would they hold Leora? Aldrich asked, his voice tight with controlled urgency. The processing facility, Elena said, pointing to a building at the harbor's edge. It's fortified, isolated, and has underground levels. Perfect for holding prisoners. Aldrich studied the maps, his tactical mind clearly working. We go in fast, extract Leora, minimize casualties. I want. Your Majesty, a young vampire burst through the door, breathing hard. We've been compromised. Obsidian forces are moving to intercept us. Before anyone could react, the windows exploded inward. Glass and gunfire filled the air as black-clad figures rappelled from the roof. Rhea hit the floor as bullets pinged off metal equipment. It's a raid, Elena shouted, returning fire with supernatural speed. Aldrich grabbed Rhea, pulling her behind a concrete pillar. Stay down. But the attack was a diversion. While Aldrich's forces engaged the raiders at the front, more vampires smashed through the rear entrance. They moved with coordinated precision, and Rhea realized with horror that they weren't trying to kill everyone. They were targeting her. 2 vampires grabbed her arms, yanking her away from Aldrich. She screamed, struggled, but their strength was absolute. Rhea! Aldrich spun, fangs bared, but 3 more vampires blocked his path. They weren't trying to kill him either, just slow him down. The human comes with us, one of them said, grinning. The Obsidian Lord wants to meet the girl who saved his prize. They dragged Rhea toward the shattered window. She kicked, fought, bit one vampire's arm hard enough to draw black blood. He barely flinched. Then they were outside, into a waiting van. Rhea caught one last glimpse of Aldrich fighting desperately to reach her before the van doors slammed shut and the world went dark. They drove for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. When the doors opened again, Rhea was hauled into a massive warehouse that smelled of brine and old blood. The space was cavernous, filled with shipping containers and industrial equipment. But what drew her attention was the cage suspended from chains in the center of the room. And inside that cage, barely visible in the dim light, was Leora.
No, reabrid.
The princess was barely recognizable. Her skin had gone gray, her once silver eyes now clouded and unfocused. She was chained to the cage bars, her body trembling with the effort of remaining conscious. When she heard Rhea's voice, her head lifted slowly. Recognition flickered in those dying eyes. "Rhea?" Her voice was a broken whisper. "No, you shouldn't. Be here." "Touching, isn't it?" A new voice echoed through the warehouse. A vampire descended the stairs from an office overlooking the floor. He was tall and elegant, with platinum hair and eyes like chips of ice. He wore an expensive suit, completely at odds with the industrial setting. "I am Lord Cassius of the Obsidian clan," he said, approaching Rhea with a predator's grace. "And you, little human, have become quite valuable." "Let her go," Rhea demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. "She's dying. What's the point of keeping her?" "The point?" Cassius laughed. "The point is that King Aldrich will trade anything, territory, resources, his own life, to save his beloved sister. And now we have you too." The human who saved her, bound by blood debt, he circled Rhea like a shark. "Tell me, does Aldrich know how the debt works? That if Leora dies, you follow?" Rhea said nothing. "He knows," Cassius continued, "which means he'll be even more desperate. He can't let Leora die without killing you too." How delicious, the progressive king who loves humans, forced to watch one die because of vampire law. "You're insane," Rhea spat. "I'm practical," Cassius gestured to Leora. "The northern clans have grown weak under Aldrich's rule. Peace with humans, restrictions on feeding, cooperation with their governments. It's pathetic. We are apex predators, not diplomats," his eyes glittered. "Once Aldrich falls trying to save his sister, the old ways will return. Vampires will rule as we were meant to, from the shadows, with humans as our rightful cattle." "Aldrich will kill you for this," Rhea said. "Aldrich will try. But he'll be too late." Cassius checked his watch. "We sent him your location. He'll come charging in like the noble fool he is, right into our trap. And while he's busy trying to save you both, my forces will strike at nightfall itself. By dawn, the northern clans will be leaderless, and the Obsidian clan will control the entire vampire world." Rhea's mind raced. This was bigger than Leora, bigger than a family dispute. This was a coup, a war for vampire civilization itself. "Now then," Cassius said, producing a silver knife. "We need to speed things along. Leora's taking too long to turn, so we'll help the process." He walked toward the cage. "I'm going to cut her, let her bleed out faster. Should tip her into feral madness within the hour." "Don't." Rhea lunged forward, but the guards held her back. Cassius reached through the cage bars, the knife glinting. Leora didn't even try to move, too weak to fight anymore. "Stop," Rhea screamed. "I'll do whatever you want. Just don't hurt her." Cassius paused, the knife inches from Leora's throat. "Whatever I want." He turned, eyebrow raised. "How generous. But you have nothing I need, little human." "Yes, I do." Rhea's mind worked frantically. "The blood debt. You said it yourself, if Leora dies, I die. But what if I willingly break the debt? What if I renounce my bond to her?" Marcus had never mentioned if that was possible, but Cassius didn't know that. The Obsidian Lord tilted his head, curious. "Even if such a thing were possible, why would you?" "Because then you don't need me as leverage. Aldrich comes for his sister, not for both of us. Simpler. Cleaner." Rhea forced steadiness into her voice. "Let me say goodbye to her. Let me renounce the bond. Then you can do whatever you want." Cassius studied her with those ancient, calculating eyes. Finally, he smiled. "You're a terrible liar, but I admire the attempt." He nodded to his guards. "Put her in the cage. Let's see what happens when we offer Aldrich a choice. Save the human or save his sister. I wonder which he'll choose." The guards dragged Rhea toward the suspended cage. They unlocked it, shoved her inside, and slammed it shut. The chain creaked as the cage swayed with the added weight. Rhea crawled immediately to Leora's side. Up close, the princess looked even worse, her breathing shallow, her skin cold as ice. The chains binding her wrists had rubbed them raw, and dark veins spider-webbed up her arms. "Leora," Rhea whispered, touching her face gently. It's me. It's Rhea. Those clouded eyes focused with difficulty.
You.
Came. Of course I came. You really think I'd let you go through this alone? A weak, broken laugh. Stupid.
Human.
Yeah, well, I learned from the best. Rhea looked at the chains binding Leora. They were silver-coated, burning the princess's skin where they touched. We're getting out of here. No escape. Leora's words came slower now, slurred.
Rhea. I'm sorry.
Blood debt.
My fault. Yudi.
Because of me. Shut up, Rhea said, but gently. Nobody's dying today. Below them, Cassius was speaking into a phone. Yes, he's taken the bait. Heading this way with his full force. Excellent. Prepare the ambush. Rhea's hands trembled as she examined the chains. Solid silver, locked with mechanisms she couldn't break. But she noticed something. The chains were bolted to the cage floor, and the cage itself was old, rusted in places. An idea formed. Stupid, desperate, probably impossible, but the only one she had. Leora, Rhea said urgently. If you drink blood, human blood, would it help? Even a little? Leora's eyes widened in horror. Know the poison. It hurts. Can't. But would it give you strength? Even temporarily? Maybe. Few minutes. But Rhea, no. I won't. You don't have a choice. Rhea grabbed a piece of broken metal from the cage floor. Before Leora could protest, she dragged it across her palm, opening a deep cut. Blood welled immediately, dripping onto the cage floor. Rhea, no. Leora tried to pull away, but the chains held her. Listen to me. Rhea grabbed Leora's face with her bleeding hand, forcing eye contact. Aldrich's walking into a trap. They're going to kill him, kill all of you, and then restart the vampire wars. Humans and vampires will slaughter each other for the next century. Her voice broke. But if you're strong enough to fight, even for 5 minutes, we might have a chance.
So drink.
Please. Tears streamed down Leora's gray face. It'll hurt. So much. I know. But you're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived 12 days of starvation, torture, and poison. You can survive this. Rhea pressed her bleeding palm to Leora's cracked lips. Save your brother. Save everyone. Do it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Leora's survival instinct overrode her resistance. Her lips parted, and she drank. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Leora's body convulsed, her back arching as the blood hit her poison system. She screamed, a sound of pure agony that made Rhea's heart shatter. Black veins spread from her mouth, the poison fighting the fresh blood in a war that was tearing her apart. But beneath the pain, something else was happening. Color returned to Leora's skin. Her eyes cleared, the silver brightening to almost white-hot intensity. And her body began to heal, accelerated by the vampire metabolism. More. Leora gasped, her voice stronger now despite the pain. Rhea gave her more, watching as the princess transformed before her eyes. The gray pallor faded. The trembling stopped. And when Leora opened her eyes fully, they blazed with power. The chains holding her shattered like glass. Cassius spun around below, eyes wide. That's impossible. The silver should. Leora stood, and the presence that rolled off her made every vampire in the warehouse take an involuntary step back. This wasn't the weak, dying girl anymore. This was a 300-year-old vampire princess, daughter of ancient kings, and she was furious. You, Leora said, her voice resonating with power, made a grave mistake. She grabbed the cage bars and wrenched them apart like they were made of paper. Then she lifted Rhea in her arms and leaped down, landing with impossible grace. Outside, the sounds of battle erupted. Aldrich had arrived. Cassius snarled, "Kill them both." 20 vampires rushed forward. Leora set Rhea down gently. "Stay behind me." Then she moved, and it was like watching a hurricane made flesh. She was faster than Aldrich, stronger than anyone Rhea had seen. Vampires flew through the air, their weapons shattered, their formations broken. Leora fought with centuries of training and royal power, and she was magnificent. But Rhea could see the cost. Black veins still pulsed beneath Leora's skin. The blood had given her strength, but the poison was still there, still killing her. They had minutes, not hours. The warehouse doors exploded inward, and Aldrich charged through with his forces, his eyes immediately finding his sister. Leora. Brother. She fought her way toward him. It's a trap. There. An explosion rocked the building. The ceiling began to collapse. And Cassius laughed, already disappearing into the shadows. Burn them all. Fire erupted from incendiary devices planted throughout the warehouse. Flames climbed the walls with unnatural speed, chemical accelerants, designed to trap vampires who couldn't escape through the inferno. Everyone out. Aldrich roared, his forces scrambling for exits. But Leora collapsed mid-step, the temporary strength from Rhea's blood finally failing. She hit the concrete hard, her body seizing as the poison reasserted control. The black veins spread across her face, pulsing with deadly rhythm. Rhea ran to her side despite the smoke choking her lungs. Leora, stay with me.
Can't.
Hold on. Leora's eyes flickered between silver and empty white.
Going.
Feral. Rhea. Run. Aldrich was there instantly, scooping his sister into his arms. I've got you. I've got you. Brother. Leora's hand clutched his shirt. Too late.
Kill me.
Before I turn. Please. Never, Aldrich said fiercely. I'm not losing you. A section of the roof collapsed, blocking their path to the main exit. Elena appeared through the smoke. This way. Secondary exit. They ran through the maze of burning containers and falling debris. Rhea's lungs burned, her wounded shoulder screaming in protest. Behind them, she could hear vampires fighting, Aldrich's forces clashing with obsidian reinforcements who'd sealed the building. They burst through a side door into the cool night air. The harbor stretched before them, fog rolling off the black water.
But there was no time to rest.
Obsidian vampires poured from surrounding buildings, surrounding them on all sides. Cassius stood at the center of the formation, untouched by the chaos he'd created. You're too predictable, Aldrich. Love makes you weak. Aldrich laid Leora gently on the ground and stood, his eyes blazing crimson. And cruelty makes you a monster. We're all monsters, Cassius replied. I simply don't pretend otherwise. They circled each other, two vampire lords preparing for combat that would shake the earth. But before they could strike, Leora convulsed on the ground. Her scream was inhuman, a sound of transformation, of humanity burning away. Her fingers extended into claws, her fangs growing longer, sharper. The silver drained completely from her eyes, leaving them white and empty. She was turning feral.
No.
Aldrich spun toward his sister, agony on his face. Leora rose on all fours, moving with animalistic grace. She looked at Aldrich, and there was no recognition in those dead eyes. Only hunger. Leora, Aldrich said softly, desperately. It's me. It's your brother. Please remember. She lunged at him with killing speed. Aldrich caught her wrists, holding her back as she snapped at his throat. Tears streamed down his face.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. He reached for the silver blade at his belt, the mercy blade, designed for exactly this purpose.
No.
Rhea screamed. She didn't think, just acted on pure instinct. She grabbed the broken metal shard from earlier, the one she'd used to cut her palm, and slashed her arm. Blood poured from the wound, far more than before. Leora. Rhea stumbled forward, holding her bleeding arm out. Remember me. Remember the food cart, the burgers, the quiet nights. You're not a monster. You're a princess who fought for peace. You're someone who protected me even when you were dying. Remember. For a moment, nothing happened. Leora's white eyes fixed on Rhea, and she snarled, preparing to attack. Then she smelled the blood. Leora's head tilted, confusion flickering across her feral features. She moved toward Rhea with predatory intent, but slower now, uncertain. That's it. Rhea whispered, kneeling down to make herself smaller, less threatening. It's me, the girl with the food cart. You hummed that sad song, remember? The Requiem. You drew pictures of the ocean. Leora was inches away now, her breath cold on Rhea's face. Everyone else stood frozen, afraid that any movement would break whatever fragile connection was forming. You told me to run, Rhea continued, letting tears fall freely. You saved my life. Let me save yours. She pressed her bleeding arm to Leora's mouth. Leora bit down, and Rhea screamed. The pain was incredible, not just the physical trauma, but something deeper, like her life force was being drained directly from her soul. She felt cold spreading through her body, felt darkness creeping at the edges of her vision. But she held on. And slowly, impossibly, Leora's eyes began to change. The white receded, replaced by flickering silver. Her claws retracted. Her body stopped shaking. Leora pulled back suddenly, horror dawning on her face.
Rhea?
What did I? You came back, Rhea whispered, swaying. You remembered. Then she collapsed. When Rhea's eyes fluttered open, she was lying on the dock, wrapped in Aldrich's cloak. Elena was bandaging her arm with professional efficiency. Around them, the battle was over. Obsidian vampires lay unconscious or fled, and Cassius was on his knees, held by 4 of Aldrich's strongest warriors. But what caught Rhea's attention was Leora. The princess stood at the water's edge, her back to them. But even from behind, Rhea could see the change. Leora's skin had returned to its natural pale beauty, no longer gray or diseased. Her posture was straight, regal, and around her, the air seemed to shimmer with power. What happened? Rhea asked weakly. Marcus appeared beside her, his ancient face showing something like wonder. The blood debt has been fulfilled. By giving your blood twice, once freely to restore her strength, once to anchor her soul during transformation, you completed the ancient pact. Leora absorbed not just your blood, but your humanity, your memories of kindness. It pulled her back from the edge. Leora turned, and her eyes were pure silver now, bright with power and consciousness. She walked to Rhea and knelt beside her. You saved me, Leora said, her voice thick with emotion. You gave me everything. Just returned the favor. Rhea managed a weak smile. Leora took Rhea's hand gently. The poison is gone, burned away by the strength of your gift. I'm free, she looked at her brother. We're all free now. Aldrich smiled, relief transforming his face. Welcome back, little sister. 10 days later, Rhea stood behind her food cart, flipping burgers on the grill as if the world hadn't fundamentally changed. The familiar smell of frying onions and grilled meat filled the alley between 5th and Main. Phoenix carried on, oblivious to how close it had come to becoming a battlefield in an ancient war. But everything was different now. The wound on Rhea's arm had healed with supernatural speed, a side effect of Leora's bite, Marcus had explained. The blood debt was fulfilled, but it had left its mark. Rhea could see better in darkness now, hear sounds she'd never noticed before. Nothing major, nothing that would make her anything other than human, but enough to remind her every day of what had happened. Cassius and his conspirators were imprisoned in Nightfall, awaiting trial before the Vampire Council. The Obsidian clan's leadership had been dismantled, their operations shut down. Aldrich had called for unity among the clans, and surprisingly, most had answered. The threat of civil war had been averted.
For now.
You're burning that one, a familiar voice said. Rhea looked up and smiled. Carlos from the tattoo parlor stood there with his usual coffee, grinning. Just testing to see if you were paying attention. Sure you were, he leaned against the cart. You've been distracted lately. Everything okay? Yeah, Rhea said and meant it. Just thinking about some big decisions. Well, think faster. You've got customers. Rhea turned and felt her heart lift. Leora stood at the edge of the streetlight's glow, exactly where she'd stood that first night. But she looked completely different now, healthy, vibrant, dressed in normal clothes that made her look like any college student. Her silver eyes sparkled with life. Beside her stood Aldrich, attempting to look casual in jeans and a leather jacket. He pulled it off surprisingly well, though his regal bearing was impossible to completely hide. "Hey," Leora said softly, approaching the cart. "Got any food for a couple of hungry customers?" "For you?" Always, Rhea started preparing 2 burgers, her hands moving through the familiar routine. "Didn't expect to see you guys back so soon. Thought you'd be busy with, running the vampire world." "The vampire world can wait a few hours," Aldrich said. He looked around the marketplace, studying it with genuine curiosity. So this is where it all started, where a food cart owner changed history. "I just fed a hungry kid," Rhea said, embarrassed. "You saved my life," Leora corrected.
Twice.
"There's nothing just about that." Rhea handed them the burgers. Leora bit into hers immediately, her eyes closing in genuine pleasure. "God, I missed this." Vampire feasts are impressive, but nothing beats street food. They ate in comfortable silence for a few moments, the 3 of them existing in a bubble of normalcy amid the chaos of the marketplace. But Rhea could feel the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Finally, Aldrich spoke. "We came here to offer you something, Miss Martinez. Just Rhea, please. I think we're past formalities." A small smile crossed his face. "Rhea, then. The Vampire Council has officially recognized your actions. You've been granted the title of Friend to the Court, which means safe passage through all vampire territories, protection from any clan, and a voice in matters concerning human-vampire relations." "That's a lot," Rhea said slowly. "There's more," Leora added. "We want you to come to Nightfall. Officially. As an advisor and human representative. Help us build the peace we've always talked about." Rhea's hands stilled on the grill. "You want me to work for you? At the vampire capital?" "With us, not for us," Aldrich corrected. "We've spent centuries making decisions about humans without any human perspective. That needs to change. And you," he gestured to her cart, to the marketplace, "you understand both worlds now. You've lived in poverty, fought beside vampires, faced impossible choices. That experience is invaluable. Besides," Leora said with a grin, "you're probably the only human who can call Aldrich out on his brooding without getting executed." "I don't brood," Aldrich protested. "You absolutely brood," both Rhea and Leora said simultaneously, then laughed. The moment of levity faded, and Rhea found herself genuinely considering the offer. Her food cart, this simple life, it was safe, familiar. But it was also limiting. She thought about the little girl they'd saved from the crossfire, about the hunters who'd been manipulated into attacking innocents, about all the ways humans and vampires misunderstood each other. "What would I actually do?" Rhea asked. "Help establish communication protocols between human governments and vampire clans," Marcus said, appearing from the shadows with his usual unsettling silence. Rhea jumped, but managed not to scream. "Develop educational programs. Advise on policy. Essentially, prevent the next war before it starts." "No pressure," Rhea said dryly. "You can say no," Leora said quickly. "We would never force you. You've already given more than anyone could ask. You deserve to live whatever life you want." Rhea looked at her cart, the peeling paint, the handwritten signs, the grill that needed replacing. She'd built this from nothing, survived on determination and stubbornness. It represented everything she'd accomplished alone. But maybe it was time to stop being alone. "Can I keep the cart?" Rhea asked. "Like, as a backup plan if the vampire politics thing doesn't work out." Aldrich's face broke into a genuine smile. "You can keep the cart. And I want Sundays off."
Non negociable.
Agreed. "And if anyone, vampire or human, tries to kill me, I'm retiring immediately." "That seems fair," Leora said, trying not to laugh. Rhea took a deep breath. "Then okay. Yes. I'll do it." Leora let out a whoop of joy and rushed around the cart to hug Rhea tightly. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "Don't thank me yet," Rhea said, but she was smiling. "I have no idea what I'm doing." "None of us do," Aldrich admitted. We're trying to build something that's never existed, true cooperation between species. It's terrifying. But necessary, Rhea said. But necessary, he agreed. As dawn approached, Aldrich and Leora prepared to leave. They traveled during the day in their enchanted vehicle, arriving at nightfall by evening. Rhea would join them in a week, after she'd settled her affairs and said goodbye to Phoenix. One more thing, Leora said before leaving. She pressed something into Rhea's hand, a silver medallion engraved with the Northern Clan symbol. This marks you as under royal protection. If you're ever in trouble, any vampire who sees this is bound by law to help you. Even the bad ones. Especially the bad ones. They respect the old laws, even when they don't respect anything else. Rhea tucked the medallion into her pocket. Leora, can I ask you something? Anything. That night in the forest, when you told me to forget everything and go back. Did you mean it? Did you really want me to forget you? Leora's expression grew sad. I wanted you to be safe. To live a normal life without monsters and politics and death threats, she paused. But I'm selfish enough to be glad you didn't listen. Me too, Rhea said. They shared one more smile, and then Leora and Aldrich disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness, moving like shadows that had learned to walk. Rhea stood alone in the empty marketplace, watching the sun rise over Phoenix. Her old life was ending. Her new life waited in the mountains, in a hidden city where vampires dreamed of peace and humans were about to become partners instead of prey. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was impossible. She couldn't wait. Rhea looked down at her food cart one last time, at the sign that read $3 tacos. She'd started with nothing but determination and a dream of survival. Now she was about to help shape the future of 2 species. All because she'd fed a hungry girl at midnight. Sometimes, Rhea thought the smallest acts of kindness really could change the world. She flipped the open sign to closed and began packing up her cart, humming Leora's Requiem under her breath. But this time, it didn't sound like a funeral song. It sounded like a beginning.